Oh, what's up, my guys? It's Friday. So today I wanted to throw it back, the first video I ever did, probably because it was trash. I'm going to redo it. So we're going to do discernment. And the reason that I wanted to redo this one above all else is because we just had our first presidential elections last night. And I got to say, without a shadow of a doubt, this is the worst two options we've ever seen, period. Bar none. I mean, it is sensationally fucking terrible what we have to pick from. Obviously, one of them is astronomically better than the other, but still not great. So I thought in the vein of that going on, it's important that we understand discernment, because that's the ability to look at something from an objective point of view, right? Zoomed out. Is this good or is this bad? And then what discernment is taking that objective judgment of it and then bringing it back to the self. You know, okay, so it's good or it's bad. It doesn't necessarily matter on the outside for other people, but to me, can I have this in my life? Is this acceptable to me? All right, and that's the whole point of discernment. So let's get into it and let's start going over it. So, like I said, objective versus subjective. So this is for all versus for the self. So objectively, we can look at certain things, like probably speeding 100 miles per hour in a school zone is objectively bad. And it would also be subjectively bad, because that would be bad for the individual. They could crash the car, they could kill somebody, they could get pulled over. There's a whole slew of issues that could happen in that situation, right? So discernment is taking it back from whatever the event is, whatever the feeling is, and bring it to the self. And this is important because most people just stop at the objective and then they apply judgment. And why judgment is so deadly, why it's so dangerous, is it creates some of the other things that we have going on in society that are plaguing us, like misogyny, discrimination, hatred, envy. And you may be sitting there asking, well, why would judgment create those things? Well, for example, right? I live in reality, believe it or not, so I understand that there are some not so great apples out there. So let's talk about women for a moment. There are hoes. I would like it if there weren't hoes, and they have them on the men's side as well. These are people that have very loose sexual morals. You know, they're sleeping around a whole bunch. Maybe they don't know who they are as a person yet, okay? They're just having their fun. So objectively, I could look at that and be like, that's a very loose moral person. And if I didn't bring this back to the subjective, where I'm like, all right, you know what? They can do whatever they want to do. It's their life. So I don't have to let them into my life, but they're allowed to live theirs, right? So the discernment act would be to say, all right, that's a bad trait. I don't want it, so it's not allowed into my life. So I'm not going to hang out with that person. However, I'm not going to beat myself up at night. I'm not going to ruminate on things and be like, oh my God, I can't believe all these women are whores, blah, 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 and get all angry and butthurt about it. There's no point to that, because you've already done the active discernment, okay? You've looked at it, you said objectively bad, not good. I do not need this in my life, so I don't let it in. Boom, end of discussion, we're done. There's nothing more to it. Judgment, going back, if you do not use discernment, you will look at one of those people that is doing that action and you will be disgusted by them. Right? I have done this in the past. I've looked at people after I've conquered, because I've been a lustful boy. I've been a bad boy in the past. Right? Once I conquered it, you start to get this holier than thou air about yourself. And you start looking at them like, oh yeah, I can't hang out with them. They're man whores or they're sluts. And I would put them down. I would put them on not a pedestal, but I put them in a little trough filled with mud and all the other gunk that's down there. I'd say, well, those people are bad. I'm better than them. Instead of just saying, you know what, they can do whatever the fuck they want, I'm not going to let it affect my emotional state by letting them into my life. Because even if you don't physically let them into your life, If you just stay in a state of judgment instead of discerning for yourself, hey, I can't have this in my life, you're going to be thinking about them. Those people are going to live rent-free in your head, beating up your mind. And then not only that, we've talked before about the subconscious brain, but what are you telling your head about the state of love and dating? And I mean, you can really take it out there to just the relationship between men and women, or whatever sexuality or gender you want to say you are. I don't really care, right? But if you don't come to terms with who you are, and what you can accept in your life, you're going to find yourself in a state of being where you're looking elsewhere at everyone else, and if it doesn't fit into your mold, you're going to hold some type of emotional judgment towards them, which may subconsciously hurt you in the future, because holding any type of negative emotion or hatred towards people may say, your subconscious, right? This is the feeling that you have. It's that feeling of hatred that you have towards those people. The feeling of envy, maybe, that they get so much attention and you don't. The feelings of greed, the feelings of misogyny, the discrimination, the rage. You know, all those bad emotions, if you don't do the active discernment, which is kind of like active transmutation, you're taking a lower state, vibrational, emotional, and you bring it into the higher state, right? To avoid all the shit that happens down there. If you don't do this, your life could start going downhill because you're focusing on the wrong things. You're focusing on what you don't want instead of what you do want. And now we know that the brain, the subconscious brain, the feelings that we give it, the things that we feed it, are what create our reality. Because whether you want to believe this woo-woo nonsense bullshit or not, what you feed, the emotions into the subconscious brain, is what must be reflected into your conscious reality. If you give your subconscious feelings of superiority and discrimination towards other people, that's what's going to be reflected. You're going to see more and more of the degeneracy that you don't want. Instead of just being the person that can grow up and say, hey, I don't choose that in my life. I do not see that. You see what that saying is? It's a declarative statement. I don't accept it. So you're going to see it less. You're not going to notice it as much. It's not going to affect your life. Okay? That's why it's so important. And I kind of covered number 3 with that whole explanation, but find the why for you, understand it, and then integrate it. And when I say the why, this is turning the objective into the subjective. So if something was bad for all, why is it bad for the self? Why is it bad for you? It doesn't matter about anyone else. Why is it bad for us? All right? Understand the root cause of this. What is leading us to be like, hey, I cannot have this in my life? Maybe it's an addictive personality trait. All right? I'll give you an example. Alcohol, for me, objectively, is it good or bad? It can be both. Subjectively, it's terrible for me. Why is that the case? Because other people can drink it and they're fine. But for me, it's because I have an addictive personality, and once I take a sip, I'm going to want a case, okay? And that's not good. So I integrate that into my life. So now I either cut it off after one beer, or have friends there that I also know limit their drinking, right? So I set up a good environment for it so I don't splurge too much. You know, I've subjectively looked at it, discern what I can do, and then I change my actions, my beliefs, to reaffirm that. And that's important, and that's the integration part, right? Integrating that discernment for yourself into your life. This doesn't mean that you have to have any judgments of other people, right? Because for other people, it might objectively be a good thing, okay? That's what I want to get at. Discernment is looking at things for ourselves. Whether it's good or bad, doesn't matter. It's for ourselves. Other people can make their own decisions, and we're all on our own life paths. So, hey, you know what? There are things that are categorically terrible for you. If you catch somebody doing meth, yeah, you should probably get them some help, because that is it's gonna kill them. But for the most part, let people live their lives, let them just, explore, experience, and hopefully along the way they grow a little bit. All right? But always just lend a helping hand if they want the help. Do not force the hand. That's how it tends to get bitten. All right? So next, take divine action that supports the discernment. Kind of covered this already with the alcohol example. All right, you're going to want to make changes. You're going to want to disclude things from your life that you don't need, that you've discerned are not great for you, and you're going to want to change your actions. If you can't drink, maybe going to the bar every weekend is not a great idea. Maybe you might want to go somewhere else instead that doesn't have alcohol. You can still hang out with your friends, but maybe remove some of the alcohol. Maybe go to an outside concert. Maybe just go out to a restaurant to eat dinner. Whatever the fuck you want to do. Doesn't matter, but make some type of action. And the reason I'm saying divine action is it's the higher self. So if you're in the state of discernment, you're already hooked in, right? You're linking up to your higher self because your lower self is obsessed with the carnal mind. It's pleasure, right? It's hedonism. It's, give. This feels good, so I want more. No. Okay? So with discernment, we're figuring out what is bad for us. Even if it gives us a small little amount of dopamine or some pleasure, we can still look at it and say, hey, that's bad for us. Kick it out. That kicking it out is a divine action. We're saying we're making a change because this is not in alignment with what my future self is, the preferred future self. And so to wrap it all in, we have to rewire the conscious brain, which then affects the subconscious brain, and those changes allow us to realign. So conscious brain, this is the thoughts that we consciously can think about. These are the running thoughts throughout the day. And once you get really good with discernment as well as mindfulness, you have complete control of those thoughts. So now, using this discernment, you can change the things that you accept or push out of your life with your conscious thoughts. And as you do this, you can use things like the declarative I am statements to rewire and reprogram your software, right? Because that's what human beings are. We're just giant supercomputers, and we've been downloading a lot of viruses over the last couple decades, centuries, however long you want to throw it back. We've had a lot of programming, whether it be from society or from the self, that may not be conducive to our futures. So that's why we need to become conscious of what we're thinking about. Instead of judging what we're thinking about, let's use discernment. And then with this discernment, let's make some changes. These changes are going to come from understanding why we are looking at this thing as a subjective, can't have it in my life, all right? Why is that? And then we understand it, and then we integrate it. That integration is the same as rewiring the conscious, okay? Because we're making changes, then we're going to consciously tell ourselves and reaffirm the changes, which over time will bleed into and impregnate the subconscious mind with changes, which will realign us in reality as the subconscious expresses those feelings into our reality for us to see and experience. So guys, let me know if you have any questions about discernment. I love the topic. I love the word. It honestly just sounds like a cool word to me. But I'm going to be honest, this is probably one of the things I've struggled the hardest with as I've leveled up in my life, as I've made changes. Of course, it is for myself. And that's the main reason I want to make changes. But guys, I'm going to be blunt. It is very fucking difficult to keep leveling up, keep making changes, be on that graph where you're making 1% better every day, and to not get taken by judgment. It is so difficult to spend so much time working so fucking hard, being better for yourself, for your family, and for humanity, and to not fall victim to judgment. Because other people may not see life the same as you. Other people may not want to level up. And you know what? After enough time of you leveling up, you might start looking around and be like, hey man, my life is getting so much better. Like, but why don't these other people want to do it? Why don't they want to do it? And you start judging people. So I beg and I plead with you, please, please use discernment and try and help people along the way, but don't judge them if they're not ready to take your hand quite yet. Okay? We all have to go through this life together. It's a fucking shitstorm. Okay? If somebody doesn't want to start meditating and they want to instead still doom scroll memes, just let them doom scroll memes. Okay? They're fucking funny. And people need to have them watched either way. Okay? So it's not that deep. Just focus on yourself. Realize that we're all in this together. We're all one anyway. And that, all the universe is, the reality is the universe just experiencing itself. It's God experiencing himself through all of us. So we need to start treating each other better and not hold each other based off the actions that they partake in. Don't judge somebody because they're doing an action that you don't agree with, okay? Just don't include that action into your life. If you want the easiest life possible, that's how you fucking do it. Figure out the things that you don't want in your life, disclude the things, but don't judge the people. Judgment will drag you into a complete hellscape. All right? I've been there. It's fucking miserable. It's like the better you get, the more you just hate everything. So please, guys, use discernment, make some changes, integrate into your life, and honestly, just fucking vibe it out. We're just vibing out here. So, happy Friday. Love you guys.